We're going to go ahead and talk today about factoring when you have special types of polynomials. The polynomials we'll look at today deal with square numbers and cube numbers. If you recall, a number is said to be squared if it has the exponent of 2. A number is said to be cubed if it has an exponent of 3. Now we're going to go through the first 10 numbers and we are going to square and cube those to give you familiarity with it. If I take 1 squared, that's 1, because 1 times 1 is 1. 1 cubed means 1 times 1 times 1. That is also 1. Now we'll go through. 2 squared is 4, but 2 cubed is 8. 2 times 2 times 2. 3 squared is 9, but 3 cubed is 27. 3 times 3 times 3. 4 squared is 16, but 4 cubed is 64. 4 times 4 times 4. 5 squared is 25, and 5 cubed, 5 to the exponent 3, is 125. 6 squared is 36, and 6 cubed is 216. 7 squared is 49, and 7 cubed is 343. The numbers are getting really large. 8 squared is 64, and 8 cubed is 512. Now this chart's going to come in useful here in a moment. 9 squared is 81, and 9 cubed is 729. 10 squared is 100, and 10 cubed is 1000. Now you can use this number chart to help you as we factor perfect squares and perfect cubes. First off, we'll look at the perfect square trinomial. It is a trinomial, so I will put my side-by-side parentheses. Notice the first and the last numbers are squares. The first number is 4, and if you look up at your chart, 4 would be 2 times 2. So in the first position of each factor, we will put 2x times 2x, because multiplied, they do give us 4x squared. Look at the last term, which is a 9. 9 is the perfect square number that comes from 3. So we will have 3 times 3, which gives us 9. Now that is a positive 9, so remember we have to use the same two signs as the middle term. The middle term is a negative. Now if you were to check this using the FOIL method, you could multiply it all together. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times negative 3 is negative 6x. Negative 3 times 2x is another negative 6x. And of course, negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Now, if you notice the middle terms, which are alike, if you combine negative 6x and negative 6x, that's where the 12x in the middle comes. So your answer is 2x minus 3 to the second power. Many people will write this as 2x minus 3 with the quantity squared. You can write it either way. Another special square factoring is when you have a binomial with two terms. In this case, it has to be the difference, so it has to be a subtraction in the middle for this to work. The first number is a 9, and again, that's 3 times 3. So let me go over here and put our 3x and our 3x in the front position. Then I have a 49, but it's a negative 49. Negative last number means we have to use opposite signs. So one of these will be a positive 7 and one will be a negative 7. And there is no middle term, so we don't even have to worry about that. So my solution factors would be 3x plus 7 and 3x minus 7. These are perfect squares. Now let's look at the perfect cubes. Cubes are a little more involved. You'll see that they are always factored with a binomial and a trinomial. All right, so let's go ahead and remember something first. Notice how the signs are different throughout. The sign rules for perfect cubes or exponents of 3 go along with the acronym or abbreviation for SOAP, S-O-A-P. The S means use the same sign first. The O means use the opposite sign next. And the letters AP stand for the last sign, which is always positive. So right off the bat, if you notice you have x to the third, or in this case, z to the third, I will put a short parentheses and a longer parentheses. Then I will fill in the signs. I will use the same sign, which here is a negative, same as the original problem. The opposite sign, which opposite of negative is positive. And then the last sign will be always positive. Next, what you'll do is think about what is being cubed. In the first term, that would be z times z times z. So it's z cubed. In the short parentheses, you put the smaller quantity of a single z. In the larger parentheses, you put the larger quantity of z squared. If a person were to multiply z1 times z squared, they would get the z to the third. Now with the number 1, 1 is a unique number. If you look back up here in our number chart, 1 is a cube of itself. So if I go back down here with my cubes, this means 1 times 1 times 1. So I would have the single 1 there. I would have 1 squared there. But of course 1 squared is the same thing as 1. So if I simplify, I could just put a 1 like that. Now that will only leave you an empty hole in the middle. For that empty hole, you will always go back and multiply the 2 basic numbers that were cubed. So it is a z and a 1. Well, z times 1 is 1z, which is just z. So my final factored answer is this. It's almost like a puzzle pattern, if you would. Now in the second example, it is a cube, and I notice it's a cube because it has an exponent 3. So I put a small short parentheses and a longer large parentheses. I notice that it starts off, original problem is positive. So I do same sign, which is positive, opposite sign, which is negative, and then always positive on the end. Now, 8. The number 8 is a perfect cube. If you look up here in your chart for cubes, the 8 comes from the original number of 2. So 8 is actually 2 times 2 times 2. And it also had x to the third. So I'm going to put 2x in the short parentheses, and then I'll put 2 squared x squared, because remember I had 3 of these. One of them goes in the front parentheses, 2 of them go in the longer, larger parentheses. When I simplify, that 2 squared is going to become 4x squared. Now let's look at this last number, which is 27. We're almost done. 27 comes from the original number 3, which means that that would be 3 times 3 times 3. Well, the first 3 goes in the front short parentheses. The 3 other 3's, 3 squared, goes in the back of the long parentheses. And when you simplify, 3 squared is going to be 9. Now, take your basic numbers, the 2 and the 3, multiply those together with that x. So 2 times 3 is 6 with that x. That's what you use to fill in the middle. You will also see that if you look in the front parentheses, 2x times 3 gives you that middle term 6x. And that would be the factored form of the cube. The cube is definitely more involved than the square, but if you remember the abbreviation SOAP, same, opposite, always positive, and you remember that it always has a short parentheses in front and a longer trinomial in the back, that will help you out.